especially 20-11 on a non-playoff team. I actually had him lower on my list. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I have him at 3. So he is definitely in my top 3 players out of the playoffs. But I guess you have him. Who do you have at your 3rd then?
Well, here's what I on my 3rd is David Lee. Reason why I said David Lee as my 3rd is because this is a guy who every single year in the league has noticeably gotten better.
Yep.
He has progressed every single year in this league. And to the point that now he's shooting over 55% in this in this game, but he's doing it taking outside jump shots where 3 years ago he wasn't taking that outside jump shot. He's still maintaining that 55% average in this league, taking those outside jump shots.
Lee I had as my 2nd best player out of the playoffs. And coincidentally, we just said that the last 2 players, one was the Nick and one is the Nick. So
well, Nick for now.
There's nothing wrong with
Nick
that.
for now.
There's nothing wrong with talking about the Knicks.
So I had Lee at 2. Who'd you have at 2?
At 2, I had Monte Ellis.
You had him pretty high then.
My reason why is because when you look at the list of the top 10 scoring guys in the league, you got Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Durant, Dirk, and Monte Ellis. Monte Ellis is 6th in the league.
It's like find the guy that doesn't belong.
Exactly.
That's what that list is. So with one, I mean, I think it's easy. It's got to be Chris Bosh. 24 points a game, 10 rebounds, 2, and he wasn't completely out of the playoffs. I mean, I believe the Bulls made it in 41-41, and Toronto was maybe a game or 2 behind them. But the criteria for this countdown was best players not in the playoffs, and that's undoubtedly.
Now you're gonna call me crazy. You might even call me crazy because on this list.
Call you crazy anyway.
Oh, go shut up.
Who's your number 1?
Chris Paul and Chris Bosh are both not on my list. Both not on my list. And the reason being is because when I designed this list, players who are not in the playoffs who have the ability to take it to the next level. Chris Bosh has been in the playoffs already. He should have been in the playoffs this year because he's that talented.
I didn't know that this countdown had quotations around it.
Well, I'm telling you.
With the ability to grow. I mean, this is the countdown of best players out of the playoffs.
My number 1 is Rudy Gay. And the reason why I say Rudy Gay is my number 1 is because he's a flashy, talented player who could score, he could defend.
And you want him on the Knicks, so you put him number 1.
Did I say that? I want Chris Bosh on the Knicks. He's not even on my list.
No way you could leave Chris Bosh and Chris Paul off
Well, you didn't have Chris Paul on your list either.
Okay, what? At least I had Bosh on my list.
What? Listen.
24 and 10 and 2. How do you leave this guy off the list?
I want to give homage to guys who haven't been in the playoffs that are going to elevate their game to the next level.
So you're saying that Danny Granger had a better season than Chris Bosh this year?
Danny Granger was injured like the whole season.
Well, Danny Granger, he was injured the whole year. But here's the thing. With that team, adding Turkoglu, even though that Turkoglu signing was an outlandish signing, and he got way too much money, but essentially, that Toronto team was expected to make the playoffs. Chris Bosh was expected to lead his team into the playoffs, and he didn't.
Okay, I can't stand Chris Bosh. So the more you say Chris Bosh is driving me crazy.
Chris.
Okay,
well, why can't you stand Chris Bosh?
Because he's overrated.
Well, are you going to be able to stand him when he's wearing blue and orange next year?
I would. If Chris Bosh comes to the Knicks, I'm done. Like,
done with what?
I can't watch the Knicks anymore.
Let me ask you then. Who would you rather have?
David Lee. David Lee's better than Chris Bosh.
Elaborate, though.
Look at his numbers. Look what he's done. Look at all the records he's broken. And he hasn't been in the league as long.
What records has he broke? What the triple-double?
Yes.
What other records has he broken?
The rebounding record for the Knicks last season against Golden State.
I mean, we were talking about Knick records.
I am not a Knick fan, but if I had the choice between David Lee and Chris Bosh, I'm going to stick with David Lee. He's already been on my team.
And he's tough.
The only thing
Chris Bosh is soft. Chris Bosh doesn't play. He's very soft.
I like Bosh.
Well,
I like Bosh, but
let me ask you this. Who do you think is a better, talking about softness, who do you think is a better player, Chris Bosh or Amari Stoudemire?
I like Amari.
Talk about soft.
I go with soft. Excuse me. Amari is not a soft player.
Amari Stoudemire is a soft player.
Amari Stoudemire.
He's like soft serve vanilla ice cream.
You don't even know what soft serve is. You don't even know. Okay, if you think Amari Stoudemire is soft, I don't know how you.
Well, how do you think
Chris
you
live
Bosh
with
is
yourself
soft?
every day?
Granted, I know I didn't put Chris Bosh on my list, but I did not. He's not a soft. He's nowhere near a soft player.
Excuse me. Amari's in the playoffs. Okay.
By the way, Chris Bosh.
Where's Chris Bosh?
Because he's in the
Where's
playoffs.
Chris Bosh?
Where is he? Playoffs because
he's not in the playoffs.
If Steve Nash plays with Bosh would be in the playoffs.
Chris Bosh he's not even in the first round of the playoffs.
Look,
Amari's already in the second
you're sweating.
one.
You're making me sweat.
It's 90 degrees in here.
Bosh tweeted the other day for you guys. No, it was should I stay or should I go? Where should I go?
Should I go?
Are NBA players now going to leave the fate of their hands now in the
That's
for
ridiculous.
The Twitters?
With this Twitter, Facebook.
That's
I'm not sure if Chris Bosh is married or has a family.
I can't believe Chris Bosh has that many Twitter followers.
Well, yeah, what, 93,000?
That's ridiculous. I bet you Mario has more. I bet you Mario has more.
Now what you demand it really goes by how many Twitter followers you have.
Well, apparently
when negotiating a new contract, you got to mention.
Well, apparently,
I'm 100,000 followers, and Chris Bosh is only 90.
If I don't have 15,000 Facebook friends on my Facebook profile, apparently I'm a loser or something like that. I don't know. This whole country and everything.
Not apparently.
I think Chris Bosh is a very overrated player. That's all. That's it. End of it. I think he's a very overrated player. End of it. I think it is. He is very overrated.
Adam. So let me ask you. You're saying that he's overrated. So even if you want to include somebody that we've already mentioned, who would be your number one player out of the playoffs?
David Lee. Hands down, David Lee.
Hands down.
That's not just because I'm a Knicks fan,
right?
But the guy just doesn't get any respect. I mean, the things he does
But here's the thing,
without
David Lee, finally getting that respect.
Without David Lee, the Knicks wouldn't even have been as good as they were this year.
They only won 29 games. How much better do you want them to be?
Without David Lee, they would have been worse than the Nets.
Listen, I love David Lee as much as you do.
Nets
territory? David Lee, that team has not won more than 32 games.
Without David Lee, that team would have won any game.
At least Bosh won 49 games.
That team would have been worse than the Nets this season.
Sounds like somebody wants Bosh. Somebody hates Bosh.
And last I checked, David Lee doesn't get injured. I think Chris Bosh already got injured. David Lee's there every single game. Brilliant, night in, night out, double-double, triple-double.
He has one triple-double. Granted, I'm saying that I think David Lee is a phenomenal player.
No.
I think he's a phenomenal player. He's 5 years on the Knicks right now. They haven't had a winning team.
He may have had one triple-double.
One player, and you're putting all that on him?
Hey, he may have had one triple-double.
Give him something to work with.
He may have had one triple-double.
Well, we'll see what happens this
But at the end of the day,
he may not be around to see it.
Do you think David Lee is worth max money? Do you think David Lee should get more money than Bosh?
Absolutely.
More money than Bosh?
No. Well, here's the thing. I don't like Chris Bosh, so I don't think Chris Bosh deserves what he's going to get. But I'm a fan.
Bosh has got an option.
I don't have a say in what Chris Bosh gets.
When you say Chris Bosh is soft, break it down for me. How is he soft? What are the aspects of his game that you don't like?
Okay, his outside, he's a big man. He should be playing much more post-game than shooting outside. But David Lee's jump shot is much more effective than Chris Bosh.
But Chris Bosh's inside game is more effective than David Lee's.
I disagree with that.
Chris Bosh is a better post-up player.
Depending on how you post up. David Lee gets his own rebounds. He averages more rebounds than Chris Bosh.
I think it depends
on that's how David Lee gets a lot of his points. It depends on what kind of post aspect you're looking at.
Exactly. What is this team looking for out of the post? Because they both are pretty good in the post, but they're different in the post.
Here's the thing: David Lee really doesn't have a post presence. His points scored and his rebounds score. Granted, he's great timing the ball for rebounding. His points scored are either from putbacks or now jump shots. But David Lee has elevated his game. He can take it to the basket. But as far as the back to the basket post up guy, Bosh is far superior post-up game than David Lee.
But to me, if you have a guy that gets his own rebound, that adds to that. First of all, that just raises his statistics. It makes him look better that he can miss a shot, get his own rebound, and get a putback. It's still 2 points at the end of the day. It's not like Chris Bosh gets out 10 points for doing a post-up move. He doesn't.
Bosh has
at the end of the day, it's still 2 points.
Bosh has a $17 million option this year for the upcoming year. I mean, everyone thinks that there's no chance that Toronto can give him that option. So if you take that number, 15, 16, 17 million, you could throw that to Bosh, you could throw it to David Lee. Okay, over 3, 4, 5 years. You've made it clear you want Lee. You've made it clear, James has made it clear that he wants Bosh. But, I mean, at the end of the I think that number is high for either of them. I mean, how could you really justify?
Look, the only thing I say, David Lee, he's on the Knicks. Okay, so that's the only thing that's working against him. But his numbers, he's like top 10 players.
Well,
in the
Adam,
league
let me ask you
numbers-wise.
this: Who are if you let's say the Knicks, and not to get into a whole Knicks conversation, but if the Knicks do retain David Lee, give me players that you could build
Joe
around
Johnson.